Now, I covered this in a previous video, this 154 interview with David Oyelowo, but it's come up in a very interesting way, another portion of it. It's 3 hours long, so I'm sure there's a great deal of things we could pull from this interview, and I will go back and watch it in full at some point when time permits. But as of now, David Oyelowo has spent 2 decades portraying Black American heroes. And now we know exactly what he thinks of the Black Southern accents he's used to portray those characters. On the 154 Africa podcast, he showed off his Southern accent techniques. He said, you start with a Nigerian accent, you slow it down, and add what he called slavery and subservience.
If you take the Nigerian accent like this, and you slow it down, you put a lot of slavery in there.
Facts.
And then you start to put a little bit of subservience in it. This is what starts to happen to the Nigerian accent.
Man.
It goes this because literally, if you're down here and you start to speed it up, and then you start to take all the thing out of it, then before you know it, you're talking like this.
Now we are free again.
Now we are free. We are released.
Hey, that was a smooth transition. You see that? Damn.
You have to study it. You have to study it.
Now we are free. It got so bad, the pressure mounted so clearly that he had to issue a formal apology.
I want to apologize unreservedly to all those who were rightly offended by my comments on the 154 Africa podcast regarding Southern accents. It was a wrong thing to say, and it is not how I feel. I have nothing but deep respect and great love for Black people of all kinds, especially those from the American South. Reducing a dialect born from the richness and resilience of Black Southern culture to anything less was careless and wrong. All I truly care about is lifting up my Black brothers and sisters from all places through my work and my words. Please forgive my failure to do that in this instance. Signed, David Oyelowo.
His apology calls it careless and wrong, but that's not the problem. He finally showed us what studying our culture actually looks like from the outside. Most actors would just talk about vowel sounds or rhythm, but Oyelowo dropped his head, slowed his voice to a crawl, and said, you just use a Nigerian accent, add slavery, and add subservience. Subservience, that word is a problem. That word's a problem. What are you talking about? How much slavery are you able to add into your voice? This seems like a personal conversation. As an actor, if you use something to get there, it might not be for public consumption, let me just say. But the fact that you were so elated to bring this to the public, how you do a Southern accent, especially after all the Southern characters that you played. And the now we are free part is also troubling.
Now we are free again.
Now we are free. We are released.
Hey.
Now we are free because you're pointing out the fact that Nigerians are free instead of the subservience and Black Americans aren't free. And the fact that Godfrey, somebody who actually does impressions for a living, like actually just let him rock with that and let him go? Like, was he starstruck or what was happening in Godfrey's mind? It's not looking good for the allies of the Pan-African movement. The Pan-African movement that he also stressed that he was such a big proponent of. You know, a lot of the people he named in his video previous, I have had interactions with or know from actually going to school with them. So how do they feel now? Since you use them as I'm one of the good ones type of badge of courage. And especially with some of them, one of them in particular, Andre Holland, being from the South, Bessemer, Alabama, don't get no more Southern than that, thinking that this is how you were thinking of him when you were interacting with him, as if there's one standard Southern dialect. And that's the funny thing about this too. I said this when I showed a clip of Idris Elba in The Wire.
I'm the one that's got to take that responsibility. And y'all are leaving me very, very little to work with right now.
Hold up,
No, that's a very simple thing, my nigga, very simple. You drive the guns to the water. You look around, you ain't see anybody, you throw the guns in the water.
Now, I think anybody would know that is not a great Baltimore accent. For some reason, British actors get these opportunities to play American characters and they use a standard general vicinity accent that sounds American but lacks a lot of specificity. When you listen to Idris in The Wire, he sounds nothing like anybody from Baltimore that I've ever heard. In fact, he probably sounds like he's more from New York, but it's also a bad version of a New York accent. The same would apply with David's standard Southern accent. So then the question remains, why are these actors being brought over here in such great numbers to act in American films? I have a theory. I definitely have a theory. But if they are struggling to do basic stuff, and their explanations of this can't help but be offensive, why are they being asked to play these American characters? Sometimes very significant Black American historical figures. We've got Cynthia Erivo, who played Harriet Tubman. The list goes on. David Oyelowo played MLK. Daniel Kaluuya played Fred Hampton. Chiwetel Ejiofor, who I've said before is one of my favorite actors, played Solomon Northup. A lot of you all don't know that the man from 12 Years a Slave was actually a real Black American person. He was born in 1807, died in 1864. What I would say is that David kind of proved our point. Is it that these actors are so brilliant that they are the only choice that could be available to these roles? Or are there plenty capable, trained and untrained Black American actors who have the experience that could do just as good, if not better, a job than these British actors? He's proven our point, because if this is his way into a Southern accent and he thought this was okay, it just gives me an idea of the lack of research, the lack of hard work that it's many times said that Black Americans lack in his telling of how he came up with this harebrained scheme on how to approach a Black Southern accent. But many times, you know, there's a lot of other things in play. In Hollywood, especially. We've talked about it in our last video, where we talk about how there is a desire to have a Black, especially Black man, under control in some way in order for them to be successful in Hollywood. Could it be that the powers that be, the producers, the studio execs, might prefer the British actor because they feel like they're more docile, they're more able to be controlled, and that their language is more refined in some way? The language that they're not using on screen, by the way. What they give up for that, in fact, is a life and genetic history of a people that were born, bled, and died on this American soil. Instead of taking that realism, they're willing to forfeit all that for a perceived British elevated status, which, like I've said before, they've got hoods in London too. I don't want you to miss also that the opportunities that these guys are given are far exceeding any opportunities a lot of American actors receive on a regular basis. Say you get an actor that comes out of a drama school here in America, stateside, they might not get the attention of the top tier agencies to even be in competition for the roles that that Black English actor comes over with, because sometimes they're already signed to a halfway decent agency in the UK. There goes the theory about there being a lack of access to theater and film for Black British actors. Why are they in a better position coming over to America without any American experience, sometimes without even a visa? And we'll get into that in a second. They're in a better position to walk into a WME, a CAA, or an ICM than any Black American actor with 20 years of experience here. Why is that? It goes into the perception that these Black people are somehow elevated above the Black American people that are here. And the funny thing is, you can hear in the conversation between David, Akbar, and Godfrey that they believe some of this propaganda about them being better than somebody else. That's how you get to subservience, right? You got to add subservience to a Nigerian accent in order for it to be a Southern Black American accent. That is twisted. That's very twisted. But back to my point about the visas. You gain a little bit of attention in the UK.
I'm a comedian that's signed to one of the biggest agencies in America, UTA, and I got signed in 2019 over a YouTube clip that at the time only had 1,000 views. I think currently it's only on 3,000 views.
You have someone, a famous actor, because the black population is much smaller than it is in America. You get a famous actor to sponsor you. A brand new actor in America does not have access to call up an actor that is the equivalent of a Lenny Henry or Daniel Kaluuya. You see what I'm saying here? There's an access problem that exists in America. And it seems like generations of actors have been struggling and there's been no progress whatsoever. But let me get back on track. But you strip away how playful the conversation was, and you see a man calling our Black American Southern language brokenness that needs liberation. When you say it like that, you see the offense as it is. That's what makes this bigger than just a bad podcast moment. A few weeks earlier, Drewski dropped the viral skit that we covered on this channel, and in it, a British actor talks about feeling oppressed like a slave to get in character. And people laughed because it was ridiculous. Watching David Oyelowo do the exact same thing in real time with the host applauding his craft wasn't funny. It wasn't funny. But here's the thing. Black Southern English isn't some failed African accent. Many linguists have studied the Black Southern accent, and it's one of the most documented varieties of English on the planet. It was built from centuries of invention by people creating new ways to communicate under brutal conditions. They created something new that carried coded resistance inside of it. They made music, they made industries. And it's about time somebody puts a little respect on our ancestors. There was no subservience, sir. It was all fight. The exact opposite of subservience that you hear within the Black American dialect of the South. They bent English into something that was meant for their survival. That is genius. That's the genius our people demonstrated. So when David Oyelowo used the word subservience, like he's really telling us how he feels. And I know it could have been viewed as a happy accident, but there is a such thing as a Freudian slip where you let your true thoughts out on accident. Now, I'm not taking away any work that David says he's doing with Nate Parker and trying to make opportunities for more black actors, for more Black American actors. But I did notice in that interview, he was much more passionate about the project he was doing with Sophie Okonedo and Nigerian actors on the continent than he really was about this fledgling streaming service he has called Manso that he works on with Nate Parker. There needs to be a real investment. And we need to have you all listen to us for once. Instead of trying to teach, instead of trying to talk down to, maybe you should see us eye to eye as your equal. There is no subservience here. Let's get that clear. And instead of talking so much, instead of knowing everything, could we possibly have your ear so that you can listen to what we're saying about how Hollywood uses Black British actors to disenfranchise capable Black American actors in the United States? And instead of being a tool of that white supremacy that you said you fight against, maybe you should listen to the people and not think that they're actually hating on you. Maybe you should understand the importance of playing our Black American figures. I brought up once about the difference between a British actor and Denzel Washington playing Malcolm X. That was a cultural moment. That's what a lot of Hollywood is afraid of. And though you want to ascend to the heights, I like to point out a fact that a lot of British actors don't seem to get about their time in Hollywood. The reason you see Hollywood pushing a lot of British actors, the pattern that I've seen as someone that's been in this business for a while, is that once they push you in that initial push, you might get 5 years of American coverage. And what happens after that? They send you packing. They send you straight back to the UK or whatever country you hail from. Why? Because they'll get another one. Why? Because you'll be able to coast off of that newfound American success in your home country, hopefully. But long term, can you name the British/American British actors that have had a career as long as a Lorenz Tate, who spoke on this issue, who've had the careers as long as a Samuel L. Jackson, who also spoke on this issue? You see where I'm going here. There's a reason they'll hire you before they'll hire me. Because there's no exit here. Now, I have thought of it many times. Maybe I should go to the UK and start playing, start being in the roles over there. They actually have quite a few American roles I've seen where you all have to put on an American accent. Maybe I can work on my British accent a little bit and be more competitive. The fact of the matter is, you see the trajectory of most British actors. And I'm saying there's few exceptions to this. After they get their one push in America, after they get their Oscar nomination, they send them packing. Ask Adrian Lester, ask David Harewood, ask Daniel Kaluuya. Daniel Kaluuya won an Oscar. And I don't know, maybe it's a choice. Maybe he would rather be at home. But you see the pattern that's developing here. You could even ask Idris Elba in some ways. He's still in his run, but they fear putting an American in that slot because they'll have to deal with an American career. They'll have to deal with the fact that this person has shown so much greatness and they don't have anywhere else to go. That they'll need to continue putting him in something, or people might ask questions. And that could cost more money. But anyway, let me know what you think about it in the comments. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, hype the video. Hype the video pushes the video in the algorithm. Swipe to the left in the comment section, hit that hype button. Also sign up for the Faucette Media Patreon. The link is in the description. This is Faucette Media.